practicing recovery principles in relationships, and it's broken up into four distinct sections: community, friends and family, intimate relationships, and work relationships. I want to read a couple of pieces from conference-approved literature to get us kind of started and in the right mood here. This group definitely is very, very concerned with the recovery process as it's outlined in the Big Book for obvious reasons. But I want to read a couple of things, and these were all written by Bill Wilson, co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is from a pamphlet called "Problems Other Than Alcohol." Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of an AA group. I love that. That tells us what our purpose is as a group. It's the teaching and practice of the 12 steps. It's about us learning and applying the steps to our lives and then showing other people how to learn and apply the steps to our lives. Now, I got sober in North Jersey a long time ago, and a lot of the meetings I went to were what you would term oral tradition, which was basically you would have wisdom teachings that were passed down from sponsor to sponsee over the course of time in the meetings, and usually Harvey Gerbil-Feather with like 23 years would be the guy who had all the great wisdom teachings, the great one-liners, and you'd go to the meetings and you'd hear these distinctly wonderful pieces of wisdom, but there wasn't really a lot going on as far as working a recovery program from the book. And in the 90s, that changed, and now you can't shake a stick without finding a group that's very concerned with the 12 steps, and that's a good thing because now there's more awareness, I think, where it concerns the recovery process. This is from page 174 in Tradition 9 in the Step Book. And it says here, unless each AA member follows to the best of his ability our suggested 12 steps to recovery, he almost certainly signs his own death warrant. That's very, very strong language as far as practicing the steps is concerned. Now, I don't know about anybody else in here, but I've been around for a while, since the late 80s. And what I've seen, my experience with what I've seen is the people who become enthusiastic about consistent meeting attendance, the people that become enthusiastic about working a recovery program with an experienced sponsor or an experienced spiritual advisor, and then those people who try to carry that message in whatever way they're best suited, those are the people that are still around and have really good qualities of life. I'm not talking about the people with a lot of years and they're cranky all the time. Those people that are always cranky for one reason or another. I'm talking about the people who really are happy, joyous, and free, and who insist upon enjoying life. You just find a high percentage of those are people who've paid attention to the recovery process. So this is from the foreword of the 12 and 12. It says, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. This is all very good news. I want to be happily and usefully whole. If you knew me, say back in the last 2 or 3 years of my drinking, I was anything but useful and anything but happy. I was more or less psychotic, and not the type of person you wanted anywhere near your home. I remember the first time I was invited over to my sponsor's house with about 6 months. It was the first time somebody had actually invited me over to their home, and I'm like, you want me to come over to your house? I was like blown away. because my invitations had run out many years ago. I would do crazy things. I remember one of the last parties I went to. The person that owned the house came home early and threw us all out. So very indignantly, I drove my car around his front lawn, running over all his shrubberies, yelling out the window what I thought of this particular individual. So you don't get invited back when you run over shrubberies. Anyway, this particular workshop is about relationships, and what really else is there? I mean, when we're forced to practice a spiritual way of life or face alcoholic destruction, we need to start to come to terms with how we conduct our relationships. Some of my relationship skills back when I was drinking was hollering and threatening. Those were two of my skills. Fight or flight. Anybody relate to that? Like you either avoid completely a situation or beat the crap out of it. One or the other. I really had so few skills. I came to in recovery as a bad electrician. That's what I was. I come from a family of really intelligent people. My brother and sister are both college professor PhDs. My mother and father were both Phi Beta Kappa from really great schools, master's plus 30s degrees, all educators and just way too smart for their own good. And here I come along, and I graduate the second stupidest kid in the high school class. Seriously. And I went to University of South Florida for 3 years and got 6 credits. That's like Doonesbury-esque. You know what I mean? It's like you really have to work hard at dropping and withdrawing and taking things over and dropping them. So I just couldn't deal. It was really a lack of dealage. When I'd get up in the morning and the choice would face me whether to roll a big doobie or get motivated and go off to economics. It was an easy choice way too often. You know what I mean? And I would sit around the house watching Love Boat reruns, watching Gopher fall in love, And then my wife would come home and say, "What'd you do all day?" Nothing. It just wasn't working. So, every single relationship in my life was destroyed by the time I got into AA. I'd lost a family. I'd lost my self-respect. I'd lost countless friends because I had a lot of friends in high school and college. I'd burned those bridges. I'd had like 13 jobs in 10 years. I could never deal with anything for any long period of time. I was a good starter. Anybody in here a good starter? You come out of the gate like a pro, but somewhere along the line, your enthusiasm, or you would change your mind to the importance of whatever the heck you were doing, like working. It's like not that important. And I'd shoot myself in the foot time and time again. I'm going to read from page 80. The step book is coming up time and time again. I hope the big book police aren't going to arrest me after the meeting. But this is one of the great lines in the 12 and 12. This is in step 8. It says, "Since defective relationships with other human beings have nearly always been the immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism, no field of investigation could yield more satisfying and valuable rewards than this one. Calm, thoughtful reflection upon personal relations can deepen our insight." So again, when we start working a program of recovery, we come to terms with our alcoholism in step 1, and hopefully someone with some experience is explaining to us exactly what alcoholism is. Because you can be in AA with 20 years and not have a clue what the first step is. That's not unusual. So hopefully you have a sponsor or a spiritual advisor or a group who can adequately explain what step one is, what being an alcoholic is, what powerlessness means, what unmanageability means. So in the first step, you come to terms with that. In the second step, you come to believe that there's hope. There's a solution. There's a power greater than yourself, because lack of power becomes your dilemma when you understand step one. So power is a solution that hopefully you start to come to believe in step two. In step three, you make the decision to embrace that power, to participate in the things in Alcoholics Anonymous that many, many people have the experience of participating in, that led them to an effective relationship with a power greater than themselves that can restore them to sanity where it concerns alcohol. And there's some further good news. Restore your quality of life, handle your problems, show you how to handle your problems. So those are the first three steps. So, okay, I'm in. I've done all three steps. I'm ready to go. What do you want me to do? The book asks us to inventory our resentments. And again, one of the things that I usually tell people that I'm working with, or I usually cover in workshops where I think that there's people who haven't gone through the steps, is don't come to a conclusion in your mind what the steps are all about before you experience them. The steps are meant to be understood experientially, not intellectually. That's a big mistake I made. They handed me the book Alcoholics Anonymous in rehab, and I read it because that's what I did. I read everything. I usually would have to read it again because I'd read it in a blackout, but being in rehab, I wasn't in a blackout, so I read it, and okay, I got it. I understand. But lack of understanding is not our dilemma. Lack of power is our dilemma. So, again, this book is meant to. It was written with the understanding that you would do the exercises. Now, that's a problem usually with most alcoholics. Who in here, when they were in school, would read the chapter but would not do the study exercises at the end? You know, I never did those stupid bastards. You know, I'm not gonna. I got to work. I already know. I already know. I don't need more work. And if you have that attitude when you're approaching our literature, you're going to be in trouble, because the recovery process is very much hinged on what you do, not on what you know. So they ask us to do a few things. They ask us to start inventorying our resentments. Now, I don't know about anybody else. Every once in a while I get somebody who doesn't have any resentments. I don't have any resentments. Oh, so we could invite the police over right now for tea. How about the IRS or the ex-wife, or, you know, the guy who beat you up in fourth grade? We'll have them all over for tea. I mean, you know, please, if you're alcoholic, you have resentments. Here's what an alcoholic will do. It's inconvenient for it to be our problem. You know what I'm saying? If the resistance we get with people, the turbulence we have with relationships, it's inconvenient for that to be our fault. So we're pre-programmed to take the other person's inventory and list all of their defects of character and why they're such scumbags. And we get very, very good at that. You know, we've got scumbag categories that we can place people in. You know, this person's such and such a scumbag, and this person is such and such a scumbag. And because it's inconvenient for it to be our fault. And I remember probably my first step meeting that they read the spiritual axiom. I was convinced that was a typo. You know, that they can't mean what they say, that there's something wrong with me every time. That's not possible. You know, I was so programmed to concentrate on the other person that my perspective was wrong. You know what a miracle is? A miracle is a shift in perception. And they say that there are a lot of miracles in AA. And that's absolutely true because there's a ton of shifts in perception. I had to start changing my mind. And at first that was like monumental. Chris is about to change his mind. Alert the press. He's changing his mind. I had to start to become open-minded. And the fourth step is a beautiful thing for that because you get to column number 4. Putting out of our minds the wrongs we have done. Others, we resolutely looked at our own faults. And all of a sudden, I have to look at my part in it. Now, in the early days, it was difficult for me really to see my part accurately. But after writing as much inventory as I've written, I can very quickly go to the 4th column, and I can very, very quickly see how I participated in the event. Now, it's usually, because I've been around a while, I usually don't attack like I used to. I'm not like an attacker. But there are subtle ways that I can kind of deviously set people up, in work relationships, or with family relationships. There's manipulation techniques that go below the horizon. You know what I'm saying? You don't really see them as accurately, and it ends up causing a lot of turbulence in the relationship. So when I'm in the fourth column today, I get to look at where was I dishonest, where was I self-seeking, which I look at self-seeking as what I want that I don't have. And I look at selfishness as what I have that I don't want you to get. And where am I frightened? What am I frightened of? What instinct or ambition is threatened? What am I afraid I'm not going to get, or am I afraid I'm going to lose? And why do I act that way in the relationship with you? So, over the years, writing all that inventory, I've become much better at having relationships with people. Now, there are people that are really close to me that might argue that point a little bit. I'm certainly nowhere near perfect. I've got flaws galore, but I was like a tornado blasting my way through people's lives when I was drinking, and it's really not that way anymore. I can actually be a positive influence every once in a while now. So it really is on the other end of the spectrum. Another area of the inventory they ask me to look at is fears. Now, believe it or not, fears play a big part in my relationship with you. I'll give you a couple of for instances. One of the ones back when I was drinking and in early recovery. I had a fear of confrontation because of the fight or flight. Like if somebody confronted me, I was afraid I would just have to go nuclear on them and I'd end up in jail or something, or beat up or, whatever. I remember, I'll give you for instance, I'm sober maybe 6 months, maybe less, and I'm a crew chief for an electrical contractor. I'm the foreman and I have 4 or 5 guys that work for me. And because my boss was a drunk, just a killer drunk, you'd show up at his house and he'd like open up the window from his bedroom and he'd go, go to McGillicuddy's house. And he'd close the window. What he was supposed to do is he was supposed to make sure there was enough supplies in the shop and around where we could grab the supplies for the jobs. If he could pull that off in a day, that'd be fine. I did like everything else for this guy. I kept his business, everything I did everything but signed the checks. But anyway, this one day he shows up on a job, which was unusual, and I'm not there because there wasn't the material that we needed for the job. I had to go to the supply house. And because I'm not there, I come back, and he's annoyed that I wasn't on the job and my guys were like free roaming. So he starts yelling at me, "God damn it!" And in front of my peers, in front of my men, he's like swearing at me and denigrating me. He's casting aspersions on my professional attitude, and I really got mad. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't freak out, but I had to pay a visit to my sponsor that night, and I said, "Phil, I'm going to blow up his trucks. I've made up my mind. I know how to do it. You use Cox Thimbledrome fuel and chlorine." I came into recovery with like bomb making skills, So I'm going to blow up his trucks. And he goes, Chris, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go there tomorrow morning and you're going to see him first thing and you're going to say, Anthony, I would like a word with you in private. Now, I'm looking at him like he's insane. But the problem was he had an uninterrupted string of being right. You know what I mean? He was on a roll. Every time he called something, he was right. So I had to listen to him because of this aberrant series of being correct. So he goes, when you get him alone, say, Anthony, I didn't really appreciate the way you talked to me in front of the crew the other day, and I wish that any time in the future that you have a problem with me, you'll take me off to the side. I'm like, what? I like the blowing up the van thing better. Are you crazy? He's gonna think I'm an idiot. But I did it because I was willing to go to Phil's lengths, and I did that. I go, Anthony, I'd like a word with you in private. And I remember saying it to him and after I said it to him, he looked at me with this crazy look, and he goes, okay. God damn it, my sponsor was right again. I'm never going to be able to tell him I told you so. So anyway, that was how, I was going to blow the guy's truck up. That was my relationship skill back then, And again, things are better. But there, a lot of times it was fear really that was I was afraid of looking bad. God forbid my guys think that I'm not cool or something. I mean, that was the worst thing that could have happened to me. So fear is tied in so much with the way I react in relationships. Now, I had an experience just recently with work that's kind of worked its way out. But what it was I have a job. I run a business account, and it's subject to the authority of a board of directors. Now, there was a board of directors election, and they elected 2 or 3 new board members who I didn't have a relationship with. And one guy came in, and he had a buddy who does what I do, and he wanted this buddy to have my job. So he came right out of the gate after me, like you wouldn't believe. It came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I mean, every single thing I'm doing is being put under a microscope, and I'm like, what is going on? And it just so happens that I found this out in a bizarre way. A friend of mine down in Lakewood was in a conversation at a professional conference where the guy who was going to replace me was bragging that he was, they want me back in this account to straighten things out, rah, 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 rah. And he calls me up, he goes, Chris, are you hiring somebody? I go, no. He goes, well, somebody's coming up to South Plainfield to take over your account. I'm like, what? So I figured this out because I'm still very devious, I'm still very, dope fiend strategic, you know what I mean? You never lose those edges, to be able to read people, and stuff like that. So I figure out what's going on. That doesn't mean I can really do anything, but this guy is trying to talk all of the people that I report to into getting rid of me because he's got a drinking buddy, that he can manipulate. And, so for a month and a half, I'm under attack. And I got to tell you, I had a lot of fear about it. Fear of economic insecurity, fear of confrontation. There was a lot of fears, but I was able to handle myself professionally and not react in a way where it would require me to make direct amends to the entire board or something, That definitely would have happened. And I didn't even think once of blowing up this guy's truck. So there's a lot of positive movement in my life, practicing these principles. Now, there's another inventory in the 4-step. It's sex harms inventory, harms to others, emphasis on sex. Now, it says if you're alcoholic, your sex life needs an overhauling, is what it said. So if you're one of those people that thinks everything's going pretty good in that area, the book says you need to overhaul it, not tune it up. You know what I mean? And I didn't argue. I wasn't one of the people that really argued too much with this, because the last girlfriend I had when I was drinking was, honest to God, a Harley Hell Angel old lady from Oakland. Okay? I mean, a Harley Hell Angel old lady. I'm not talking about somebody that liked bikers. I mean, she was a Hell's Angel old lady from the Oakland chapter. And I met her in this prison pen pal thing that I was doing. And listen, if you're new, please, I'm not recommending that as a dating tool. I had a real bad experience with that. It started with our first date where she OD'd in Penn Station and then just went downhill. You know what I mean? But anyway, oh man, I brought her home to live with me and Mom. Can you imagine? Do I need to tell you they didn't get along? Oh my God, she wanted to go around armed. In Basking Ridge, she wanted to go around armed. Oh, in Basking Ridge, Yeah, I guess you do need a handgun in Basking Ridge. There was somebody that walked a dog without a leash here 2 years ago, You got to protect yourself. This one time in the store, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Basking Ridge, but it's a store restaurant. It's like real, highbrow type restaurant. I take her up there for a drink, and we're sitting in there, and I pointed to a waitress, and I said, yeah, that waitress wanted to go out with me, but she blew me off 3 times. I don't know even why I said that, And she said, okay, let's go. And we go out to the car, and she goes, hold on a minute, I forgot my purse. And she goes back in. She drags this waitress off of a bar stool and beats the ever-loving crap out of her in the store restaurant. People were so shocked. No one even did anything. They just stood there like, oh, nobody even tried to break it up. And she comes running out of the place, going, start the car. We got to get out of here. Like, what? I just beat the hell out of that girl that disrespected you. I'm like, what? That's the store. So did I need an overhauling? You know what I mean? And I remember, okay, so I'm sober now. I'm sober a couple of months. And this I guess she was kind of mocus. This very attractive young lady started to make what at least I interpreted was kind of passes at me, like, what meeting are you going to tomorrow night? Maybe we can have a couple. So I go back to my sponsor, Phil. There's this girl. I want to go to some different meetings because she wants me to go over the. You want to get hooked up with a woman, Chris? Is that what you want to do? Oh, that would be a good idea. Oh, that would be a good idea. He goes, relationship stands for really exciting love affair, turns into outrageous nightmare, sobriety hangs in balance. That's what relationship spells, And he knew that. So he goes, I don't really recommend that, Chris. And let me emphasize it like this. Picture a gymnasium filled with women. And somewhere in that gymnasium is an axe murderess. Here's what the cops would do. They would set you loose in there, and as soon as you became attracted to somebody, they'd throw the cuffs on her. And I'm like looking at him like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand me. Well, he understood me all right. Oh my God. So an overhauling can take a couple of years, to be at a point where you can pick a healthy relationship instead of something that's really exciting. Like I'm working with this one person who makes bad choices. I mean, as far as partnering up. Is there anybody in here that makes bad choices every once in a while, partnering up? Or has experience making bad choices partnering up? Well, this one individual just time and time and time again, it's just an absolute outrageous nightmare of a relationship. So I said to her, I go, listen, how about this? I'll be in charge of who you date from now on. I mean, it's got to be better than the people you're picking, you know? It's got to be better than the websites you're going to. I mean, oh my God. So, a lot of times we approach relationships like we approached alcohol. We approach relationships like we approach drugs. That person will make me feel better. Instead of looking at relationships in a healthy way, which is, could that relationship be rewarding on a number of different levels except for, passion-wise, And it's just the alcoholic is so programmed for immediate gratification that we'll do that. We'll pick the wrong people. We'll pick the Harley Hell Angel. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I was born and raised in Basket Ridge. I'm going out with a Hell Angel. My God, And then I'm contradicting my sponsor when he's trying to give me relationship advice. So again, I've inventoried enough of the unsuccessful relationships in step 4 to understand some of the things that don't work. And then it talks about put together a sex ideal. Put a sex ideal together. What works? Figure out everything that works. Figure out what you want. Figure out what you're willing to bring to the party. The more solid character traits, positive character traits you're willing to bring to the party, the better the mate that you're going to attract. The more influence you're going to have on who you're already with so that the relationship can grow. One of the things Bill Wilson used to say is if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. That's why in the early days of AA, they really tried to drag the spouse and the family and everybody into the recovery program. They didn't want somebody getting so spiritual that, they're going to find somebody that really understands and leave, their family. And that does happen in AA today, a lot of times. I've seen more marriages break up when somebody gets into AA than before. It's because there's so much significant change that can take place in an individual and a family unit when somebody gets sober. So I'm putting together a sex ideal. Now I'm supposed to enlist God with help to live up to that ideal. One of the things I've learned in the past several years is I work with a lot of guys. I used to work with a lot of newcomers about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I was the go-to guy for the newcomers. I was taking a lot of people through the steps. Just in the natural evolution of my 12-step work, I work a lot now with people that have been around a while and people that are seeking a deeper and broader experience with AA, and they've been through the steps a lot. And they've got real-life situations that could be improved on. And one of the things there was a bunch of guys coming to me with work problems. And so I said, let's put together a work ideal. Let's use the inventory for the harms to others. Let's inventory the work relationships with that, and then let's develop a work ideal. I've done some family ideals with people. I've done some parenting ideals with people, and it's a good way to define where you want to head, and then work with God toward achieving those goals. And all of this revolves around relationships. Now, I stay very, very current with a sponsor, but I also do a lot of fifth step work with different people that I'm going through the steps with. I've gotten to a point now that I choose carefully who I'm going to be honest with, but then I'm honest about everything. I've really lost the fear of, if I say that, if I tell this, they're going to think I'm small. I mean, I've gotten way past all of that, and I'm very, very forthcoming, as forthcoming as I can be with things with a lot of different people. But there is one sponsor that I have that just knows everything, warts and all, and I'm not afraid to tell him anything. And that's very helpful as far as relationships concerned, because I'm not trying to hide anything. Anybody in here lie back in the day? I won't even say now. I'll say like back in the day, you would lie, or you would embellish the truth a little bit. Anybody in here lie for like no reason? Somebody say, "Where were you?" Maine. They don't even care where you were. You were in Maine. We would just lie for like no reason at all. The fifth step really taught me that the truth isn't as dangerous as I think it is. I don't have to like manipulate everything. It's safe out there. So I'm much more honest with my relationships. Now, honesty without compassion can be abuse. I'm not going to be completely honest with people if I can harm them in so doing. So there's areas that I have to use some discretion with. Doesn't mean I'm dishonest. It just means I'm not going to be brutally honest just for the sake of being honest when it causes somebody harm. Moving into steps 6 and 7, there's a lot of great stuff in the step book. There's also three wonderful paragraphs in the big book, and it talks a lot about being willing to have God remove these defects of character that are causing these defective relationships, and most of your other woes. And there's participation in this process. Along the line, though, I had to learn what kind of participation was appropriate, and what in other words, what was God's job and what was my job. And a lot of times I was confused on it. At periods of time I thought, God, just take away everything, and that'll be great. Thanks. And that was it. And nothing would happen. And then there were times where I thought I was the one. I've got to do everything. I've got to not be selfish today. I've got to be completely honest. I'm going to change my ways. I'm going to be a completely different person. And that lasted about 5 minutes. So I had to find where God's my participation and God's power apply with my defects of character. And one of the things I found is the best possible atmosphere to be in for the removal of your character defects is to be willing to make amends to the people who those defects of character harmed, and actually go out and make amends to those people where those defects of character have caused harm. Now, I know a lot of people in this meeting, and I know, if you line people up here with experience with amends, it would be a very long line, and you'd hear one amazing story after another. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir when I'm talking about making amends in this group. But until I started making amends, until I became willing and then started to actually take responsibility for the defects of character and how they harmed other people, I don't think I stood a chance in steps 6 and 7. I prove my seriousness to God when I start to go out and make amends. And contingent upon how serious I am is how serious the power is that starts to remove my character defects. Now, a lot of the character defects I had were removed, and I mean removed. Road rage. One day, I would be on your ass. 2 inches. If it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone and you're doing 33, God damn it, don't you know I need to be somewhere? I'd be right on your ass, and I'd tailgate you all the way to the meeting to share on Serenity. You know what I mean? And that was me. Or I'd be in a line. Anybody go to the supermarket and you're in the express lane and somebody has like 42 things, and they're taking, then they start talking with the checkout lady, like, how's Harry, and they bring out coupons, and after that they've got the Price Saver card, and then now they're going to write a check. You know what I mean? And by this time, you want him dead. You want him dead. You deserve to die. And that type of rage left me one day. It's not like I worked on it. I did enough of the spiritual work that all of a sudden I was okay where I was doing what I was doing. And that was just amazing, to be okay where you are doing what you're doing. Because there really is only now, and there's only here, And why be upset about it? It's just ridiculous. So I'm not telling you that if Clem Cadiddlehopper gets in front of me doing 20 miles an hour in a 50, I'm not going to get a little annoyed. I'm just not going to follow him past my exit to recut him off. You know what I mean? I'll be able to drive the one car. So that was removed. Fear of police was removed. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. When you're driving down the road, all of a sudden you see the red flashing lights. It's like, oh my God, I'll become a Jesuit. Just let me get out of this. That's the way it was for me, and it never worked. They always pulled me over. I remember this one time I got pulled over, and I was so drunk. He goes, license, registration, insurance card. I remember I just reached into the glove compartment, and it was just, I just couldn't deal. I handed him everything, handed him maps and tissues and, all this pens and all this stuff from the glove. I was so drunk, The guy goes, please step out of the car, and it was like a big horrific thing. And I remember that they videotaped me because they were big on that for a while. I don't know, I guess they still are. They videotaped me. And I remember going to a lawyer and saying, I did really well on the ABCs. I want to fight this. Okay? Because I did. I remembered that I got the ABCs. Well, I go there with my lawyer. And, we get the copy of the video, as part of our discovery. And we sit down and we start watching it. And meanwhile, the cops are walking back and forth out in the hallway and they're laughing. You can hear them laughing, I guess that they'd been using this for comic relief probably for the last couple of months. But anyway, I know I nailed those ABCs. I nailed them. Well, we start watching the video, and I'm horrified. Has anybody ever seen yourself really drunk on video? It's ghastly. And here's how I did the ABCs. A, B. I mean, that's exactly how I did them. And they have me walking the line, and they're videotaping me, and I'm holding the wall while I'm walking the line. They're like, Mr. Schroeder, please take your heads off the wall while you walk the line. And at the end of this, they've got the camera on me, and I'm sitting at the desk, and they go, is there anything that you want to add before we turn the camera off? And I look at the camera, and I do this. Like this. Well, up until this point in time, my lawyer had like composure, right? As soon as I did that, he goes, blah! He starts laughing. He goes, whatever small chance we had of getting you off, you just blew with that. Your tongue was slapping the side of your head back. I mean, he goes, I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I look at him and I go, I guess we'll plead, Oh man. So I walked for 4 years during, the most important dating period of my life, the late 80s. Anyway, I mean, I was just an absolute maniac. And, I wondered why she left. And where are all the babes, It happened to a guy like me. I got to the point where I wasn't even going to the bathroom anymore. I was throwing open the window and puking out the window. And, there's like a retirement community right next to my house, So there'd be like old people walking, I'd be like vomiting out the window. And where are the babes? I would be drunk out of my mind by about 7 or 8 o'clock at night in a complete blackout. And anybody here a phoner? Raise your hand. Come on. You ever get really drunk and phone people up? Oh man, that used to horrify me. I'd come downstairs and I'd have done it in a blackout. So I'd look and there'd be little pieces of paper all over the place with people. No, not Mary Lou McGillicuddy from the 4th grade. Oh no, I called her. Oh no. So it got to the point where I would cut the telephone line. I'd start drinking and I'd cut the phone line. Now, I'm an electrician, though, unfortunately. So I'd get really drunk and I'd wire nut the lines back together. Well, I started to get smart. I would throw a ladder up on the side of the house and reach as high up as I could with the pliers and cut the line way up by the electrical lines. Well, I'd get up there, so I'd put like the ladder on top of a milk crate or something. I'd get up there and I'd put them back together. Well, it got so bad that all you hear is static in the line. It's like, so I called the phone company guy. The phone company guy comes and he looks. He goes, "What the hell?" Because it looks like the line had been cut about 30 times and scotch taped back together. Because I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I go, "Oh yeah, that's what I thought it was." Bought the place like that. I mean, unbelievable. So I lived in the past. Anybody lived in the past? Anybody try to recapture the high school party atmosphere and, back when alcohol was working? I mean, I'd call up all the people I used to party. They'd be like, "Chris, that was 25 years ago." I'm a priest now, or something, Don't call anymore here. So it was really bad. When I started going out to make direct amends to people that I had harmed, people that I had phoned, I had huge amounts of lists of people that I'd harmed one way or the other. I started to get a perspective on how to actually relate to people, And today I have so many friends that it's unbelievable. I was searching for friends. I mean, I'd buy the cocaine if you'd be my friend. And then you'd disappoint me somehow, and I'd have to rob your guitars or something. I mean, it was just this outrageous nightmare type of relationships I would have. But, today, practicing the principles, and I don't profess to be an expert at these principles or this book or this program or anything. I just have some experience. The experience that I've gotten from practicing these principles has enabled me to have really good relationships. I have an unbelievably good relationship now with my wife. We've been married over 10 years. I mean, I never did anything for 10 years in a row. I could never keep anything together. I've got really good relationships with my family. My mother's in a very deteriorative form right now. Her body's really starting to give out. And I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of months making the house handicap friendly for her. And, I can get things done. That's what I do for a living. I can get people to do things. That's really what a manager is. And I know who to call and where to call, and I've put a lot of things into place that are going to be very, very helpful for her. I went from being a terrible electrician to running a big piece of business where they actually give me about $7 million in budget and say, "Go for it." I can't even imagine that back when I was drinking. You'd be afraid to lend me $5. Let alone, "Oh, here's Chris. Hey, let's give Chris $7 million. I mean, not even in a bad reality TV show would you do that back then. About 60 people work for me today, and I'm actually a really compassionate yet efficient boss. Believe it or not, I did fire about 40 of them when I went in there just to get rid of the deadwood, but you got to do that today, But I now have a really good crew that, and we're doing a great job, and everybody's happy except that board member who had a buddy. So, so that's really going well. All I can tell you is, these recovery principles are really the things that have worked in my life. It's not what I know, it's what I did. And the things that I did had a cumulative effect, and they all built up my ability to deal and my quality of life. And for that, I'm very grateful. Now, I hope everybody will continue to come. Next week, we're going to have Carrie and Pat are going to be talking, and that's going to be great. Yeah, you guys, next week. Yes. Pat's looking around. So you don't want to miss that. And there's 12 other speakers that are going to be here over the course of the next 3 months, sharing on different aspects of relationship, different types of relationships, and how they've applied recovery principles. And it is an open meeting. Bring anybody you want to bring. You can even bring those spouses that you want to sharpen up a little bit because they're not acting right. Maybe they'll learn a few things. And, so please do that. We have 15 minutes left. It's open for sharing, for comments, for anything. Thank you.